We often see problems as roadblocks, things that slow us down or prevent us from reaching our goals. But what if the very thing you're trying to avoid is actually the thing that'll take you to your next level? Problems are not interruptions, they are instructions. They are designed to move you forward, not hold you back. Think about a seed. Before it can grow into a mighty tree, it has to be buried in the dirt. It has to endure the pressure of the soil, the weight of the earth pressing down on it. In the darkness, it looks like nothing is happening. But in reality, that pressure is activating the potential inside. Without the struggle of pushing through the soil, the seed would never break open, never grow roots, never reach toward the sky. In the same way, the challenges you face are not there to crush you. They are there to unlock something inside of you that could never be developed in comfort. Pressure produces power. Resistance builds strength. The very struggle you're facing right now is stretching you, preparing you, and positioning you for something greater. Think about how muscles grow. If you want to build strength, you don't lift light weights forever. You increase the resistance. You push past the pain. The muscle fibers have to tear before they can rebuild stronger than before. Without that challenge, there is no growth. In life, it works the same way. The difficulties you face are strengthening you, increasing your capacity, and preparing you for the weight of your destiny. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison. Every step of his journey looked like a setback, but what seemed like a problem was really the pathway. Without the betrayal, he wouldn't have ended up in Egypt. Without the false accusation, he wouldn't have been put in prison. Without the prison, he wouldn't have met the right person who led him to Pharaoh's court. And without Pharaoh's favor, he never would have become second in command over all of Egypt. What looked like obstacles were actually stepping stones. Each problem was a necessary piece of the puzzle. Each challenge was a doorway disguised as difficulty. If he had given up in the middle of the process, he would have missed the promotion waiting for him on the other side. It's easy to think that challenges come to hold us back, to make life harder, or to stop us from reaching our destiny. But in reality, challenges are the very tools God uses to take us higher. They are not meant to break us. They are meant to build us. Every difficulty, every delay, every opposition is a setup for elevation. Look at the way an eagle teaches its young to fly. The mother starts by making the nest uncomfortable. She removes the soft feathers and leaves behind the sharp sticks, forcing the baby eagle to move. Then, when it's time, she pushes the eaglet out of the nest. At first, it looks like the little bird is falling, about to crash, but just before it hits the ground, the mother swoops in and catches it. She does this over and over until the eaglet learns how to stretch its wings and soar on its own. If the mother never pushed it, the eaglet would never know it was designed to fly. In the same way, God allows us to face challenges, not to harm us, but to help us discover the strength He has already placed inside of us. If life was always easy, we would never grow. If there were no opposition, we wouldn't develop the faith we need to step into greater things. God uses difficulties to prepare us for the destiny He has planned. Consider David. When he was just a shepherd boy, he faced challenges that seemed small compared to what was coming. He had to fight off lions and bears to protect his sheep. At the time, it may have felt like an unfair struggle, but those challenges were training him for something greater. When he stepped onto the battlefield to face Goliath, he wasn't afraid. He had already been through battles before. He had already seen God come through. What looked like difficulties in the past had actually been preparation for his promotion. God will never allow a challenge in your life unless it has a purpose. The opposition is not a sign that you're failing. It is a sign that you are growing. Resistance means you are being strengthened. When God wants to take you to a new level, He doesn't always do it by making life easier. He does it by stretching you, by allowing you to face things that seem too big, too strong, too impossible. Because it's in those moments that your faith is activated, your endurance is built, and your character is refined. Diamonds don't form in comfort. They aren't made in easy conditions. They start as ordinary carbon buried deep beneath the earth's surface, exposed to extreme heat and intense pressure. Over time, that pressure transforms what was once just a dark, unremarkable rock into one of the most valuable and beautiful gemstones in the world. Without the pressure, the diamond would never take shape. Without the heat, it would never shine. In the same way, the pressures of life are not there to destroy you. They are shaping you, refining you, making you into something greater. The weight of adversity, the fire of trials, the intensity of the struggle, all of it is working together to bring out the best in you. It may feel uncomfortable. It may seem overwhelming, but if you stay the course, you'll come out stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. Look at the life of Job. He was a man who faced unimaginable pressure. He lost his wealth, his health, his family, and his reputation. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. It would have been easy for him to give up, to let the pressure break him. But instead, he held on. He refused to let his faith waver. What he didn't realize was that the pressure wasn't there to destroy him. It was there to elevate him. In the end, he came out with double what he had lost, stronger in faith, and with a testimony that would inspire generations. Think about how gold is purified. It has to go through the fire. The intense heat melts away the impurities, removing everything that doesn't belong. Without the fire, the gold would remain mixed with lesser materials, never reaching its full potential. Your trials, your challenges, the pressure you're under, it's all refining you, making you more valuable, burning away the doubt, the fear, the weaknesses that would hold you back. Even in nature, the tallest trees are the ones that have endured the strongest winds. The deeper the roots, the greater the storm they can withstand. When you're under pressure, it's not a sign that you're being buried. It's a sign that you're being transformed. The resistance is building your endurance. The struggle is increasing your capacity. And the weight you feel today is only shaping you for the greatness that's ahead. We've all faced moments in life when a door we desperately wanted to walk through suddenly shut in our faces. Maybe it was a job you were sure was meant for you, a relationship you thought would last forever, or a dream that seemed so close only to slip away. When doors close, it's easy to feel discouraged, to wonder why things didn't work out. But what if that closed door wasn't a rejection? It was a redirection. What if the very thing you're disappointed about is actually making room for something better? A closed door is not a sign of failure. It's often a sign that God has something greater in store. Sometimes we set our sights too low. We pray for a good opportunity when God has a great one waiting for us. We hold on to something small when He's trying to give us something bigger. If He allowed that door to close, it's because He knows what's on the other side isn't meant for you. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, trained as royalty, positioned to be a leader, but when he made a mistake and fled to the wilderness, it seemed like his future was over. That door had closed. He was no longer in Egypt, no longer in power, no longer in a place of influence. But what looked like the end was actually the setup for his true purpose. If he had stayed in the palace, he would have never been used to lead the Israelites to freedom. That closed door forced him into a new direction, one that led to greater impact than he could have ever imagined. Joseph experienced the same thing. He thought his future was secure in his father's house, but his brothers betrayed him, selling him into slavery. That door to comfort, to familiarity, to safety was slammed shut. Then, after years of faithful service, just when things started to look up, another door closed. He was falsely accused and thrown into prison. If you had asked him in that moment, he might have thought his life was over. But what he didn't realize was that every closed door was positioning him for something greater. If he had never been sold into slavery, if he had never been imprisoned, he never would have ended up in Pharaoh's court, second in command over all of Egypt. Closed doors may feel like setbacks, but they are often divine setups. When God closes a door, He is not leaving you empty. He is making room for something beyond what you can see right now. The very thing you thought was working against you is actually working for you, shifting you, preparing you, and leading you towards something far greater than you could have planned on your own. Life will always present challenges, setbacks, and situations that don't make sense. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. Your response in times of difficulty determines the outcome of your situation. It's not just the problem that shapes your future, it's your attitude, your faith, and your perspective in the middle of it. Think about two people facing the same storm. One person complains, gives up, and becomes bitter. The other person stays in faith, keeps a good attitude, and continues to trust that something good is coming. The storm passes for both of them, but only one comes out stronger, wiser, and ready for greater things. The way you respond in the storm determines what happens after the storm. Look at the Israelites when they left Egypt. God had promised them the promised land, a place flowing with milk and honey. But when they faced obstacles, when they saw giants in the land, they started complaining. They focused on the problem instead of the promise. Because of their negative response, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. What should have taken days turned into decades. It wasn't the giants that kept them out of the promised land. It was their response to the giants. Contrast that with Joshua and Caleb. They saw the same obstacles, the same giants, but the response was different. They said, yes, there are giants, but God is with us. Yes, there are challenges, but we are well able to overcome them. Their faith, their perspective, and their words determined their reward. When everyone else missed out, they stepped into the promise. Joseph is another example. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison, he had every reason to be bitter. He could have spent years angry, frustrated, blaming everyone for his problems. But instead, he chose the right response. He stayed faithful, worked hard, and trusted God's timing. Even in prison, he kept a spirit of excellence. Because of that, when the opportunity came, he was ready. If he had responded with bitterness, he might have missed his destiny. Your response in difficulty determines whether you stay stuck or whether you step into something greater. When challenges come, you can either let them defeat you or you can use them as a stepping stone. How you respond today will shape the rewards you receive tomorrow. Your attitude in the problem is setting the stage for the opportunities that will come next. The test is not just in the challenge, it's in how you handle it. No matter what you're facing today, no matter how difficult the situation seems, remember this: adversity has an expiration date. The hardship, the struggle, the opposition, it may feel overwhelming right now, but it won't last forever. What you're going through is only temporary, but what God has spoken over your life is permanent. His promises, His purpose, and His plan for you are not affected by the storms of life. When a storm rolls in, the sky grows dark, the wind picks up, and the rain pours down. In the middle of it, it might seem like the sun will never shine again, but no storm lasts forever. Eventually, the clouds break, the rain stops, and the sun comes out again. The storm was temporary, but the sun was always there, just hidden for a moment. In the same way, your adversity may be intense, but it will pass. What remains is what God has planned for your life. Look at the story of Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his health, his family, but that wasn't the end of his story. The adversity was temporary, but God's plan for his restoration was permanent. Even when it looked like all hope was gone, God was still in control. In the end, Job received twice what he had lost. The enemy tried to destroy him, but the trouble was temporary. What God had in store for him could not be erased by a season of hardship. Joseph spent years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. It seemed like his life had been completely derailed, but the prison was only temporary. The false accusations, the betrayal, the disappointment, none of it could stop the plan that God had already put in place. When the time was right, Joseph was called out of the prison and promoted to a position of power. His adversity lasted for a season, but his destiny was always secure. David was anointed as king when he was just a boy, but before he ever sat on the throne, he spent years running from King Saul, hiding in caves, living as a fugitive. It must have felt like his promise would never come to pass, but the adversity was just a chapter, not the whole story. When the time was right, God's plan unfolded exactly as He had said. The difficulties you're facing may seem like they will never end, but they are only a moment in time. The sickness, the financial struggle, the heartbreak, the delay, it's all part of the process. but it's not the final outcome. You may feel like things are falling apart, but in reality, God is putting things in place. The adversity is temporary, but the calling, the purpose, and the favor on your life are permanent. It's easy to stay encouraged when everything is going right, when doors are opening and when life feels like it's moving forward. But what about the seasons when things don't make sense? When the job doesn't come through, when the relationship falls apart, when the dream seems delayed? These are the valley seasons, times of uncertainty, struggle, and waiting. But here's the key. The valley is not a place to give up. It's a place to grow. It's where God prepares you for the mountaintop. The valley may feel lonely, but it is never empty. God does His greatest work in the valley. That's where He refines you, strengthens you, and deepens your faith. If you stay faithful in the valley, if you keep doing the right thing when it's hard, you are positioning yourself for greater things ahead. Look at David. Before he ever stepped onto a battlefield to defeat Goliath, he spent years in the valley tending sheep. No one was watching, no one was applauding, but David stayed faithful. He could have complained, he could have given up thinking, I was anointed to be king. Why am I stuck in a field? But instead, he embraced the valley season. He learned to fight lions and bears, to trust God in solitude, to develop the character needed for his calling. What looked like an ordinary valley was actually training ground for his destiny. Joseph had a dream of greatness, but before the palace, he had to endure the valley. Betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and later imprisoned. Every step looked like a setback. But Joseph remained faithful. In Potiphar's house, he worked with excellence. In prison, he kept a good attitude. Even when nothing made sense, he didn't lose his faith. What he didn't realize was that every valley was leading him closer to the throne. The valley is not a mistake. It is a place of preparation. When a tree is planted, its roots go deep underground before it ever grows upward. The deeper the roots, the taller the tree. Without the valley, there will be no foundation for the blessing ahead. Sometimes God will allow you to walk through a valley to see if you will remain faithful. Will you trust Him when the breakthrough hasn't come yet? Will you keep praising Him when the door hasn't opened? Will you keep believing when the answer is still unseen? Your faithfulness in the valley determines how high you will go on the mountaintop. If you keep trusting, keep serving, and keep walking in obedience, the valley will not be your final destination. It will be the place where you are prepared for something greater. When God puts His favor on your life, no person, no situation, no opposition can stop His plan. People may try to discredit you, block your opportunities, or make things difficult, but they don't have the final say. The favor of God is more powerful than any force that comes against you. Look at the life of Joseph. His own brothers were jealous of him. They threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and thought they had ended his dreams. But what they didn't realize was that their opposition could not cancel God's favor. In Potiphar's house, Joseph was falsely accused and thrown into prison. But even in prison, God's favor was with him. He was put in charge, given influence, and ultimately elevated to the second highest position in Egypt. The very people who tried to stop him actually set him up for something greater. David faced the same thing. After being anointed as the next king of Israel, he spent years running from Saul, who was determined to take his life. Saul saw the favor on David and did everything he could to destroy him. But no matter how much opposition came his way, David couldn't be stopped. Time and time again, God protected him, elevated him, and fulfilled His promise. The opposition was real, but the favor of God was stronger. Nehemiah experienced resistance when he set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. People mocked him, plotted against him, and tried to intimidate him into quitting. But Nehemiah understood a powerful truth. When God has called you to something, no human effort can block it. He kept building, kept trusting, and in the end, the wall was completed. Even Jesus faced opposition. The religious leaders tried to silence him. The Pharisees plotted against him. People misunderstood him, rejected him, and ultimately crucified him. But even death couldn't stop the favor on his life. What looked like defeat was actually the greatest victory of all time. People may try to push you down, talk about you, and stand in your way, but they are not in control of your destiny. Promotion doesn't come from people, it comes from God. The more they try to stop you, the more God will use it to push you forward. Every obstacle, every delay, every unfair situation is just another opportunity for God to show His power in your life. His favor is not limited by human approval, and His plan is not dependent on other people's opinions. When God decides to bless you, no one can take it away. Growth doesn't happen in the easy seasons. Strength isn't built when everything is going smoothly. True transformation happens in the trials, when you are stretched, tested, and pushed beyond what is comfortable. It's in the moments of challenge that God shapes you, refines you, and prepares you for greater things. A caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly by staying the same. It goes through a process, a struggle inside the cocoon. It looks like nothing is happening, but inside transformation is taking place. If you were to cut open the cocoon too soon, the butterfly would never develop the strength it needs to fly. The struggle is necessary for its wings to form. In the same way, the trials in your life are not there to weaken you, they are preparing you to rise higher. Look at Joseph. He had a dream of leadership and greatness, but before he could step into that destiny, he had to go through trials. He was betrayed, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. From the outside, it looked like his life was falling apart, but in reality, God was using those very trials to transform him into the leader he was meant to be. The pit and the prison were not the end of his story. They were part of his preparation. David was anointed as king at a young age, but before he ever sat on the throne, he faced years of trials. He spent time alone in the fields, tending sheep. He had to fight off lions and bears. He ran for his life from King Saul, hiding in caves. Each trial seemed like an obstacle, but in reality, it was shaping him into a mighty warrior, a strong leader, a king after God's own heart. Even in nature, gold has to go through the fire to be purified. Diamonds are formed under extreme pressure. The strongest trees grow in the harshest winds. Every great person in history had to endure trials before they stepped into their destiny. The same is true for you. When you're in the middle of the trial, it may not make sense. You may wonder why things are so difficult, why doors seem to be closing, or why challenges keep coming. But the difficulty is not there to destroy you, it is refining you. The pressure is shaping you. The struggle is strengthening you. You are being transformed into the person God created you to be. The very trial that feels like a setback is actually the process that is pushing you into your purpose. Before every new level, there is always a test. Before the breakthrough, there is always a challenge. The way you handle the test determines whether you are ready for the next season. God doesn't just hand out promotions. He prepares you for them. And the preparation comes through trials, opposition, and moments where your faith is stretched. If you stay faithful, if you trust Him even when it's difficult, you will step into the promotion that is waiting for you. Think about students in school. They don't move to the next grade just because they've been there long enough. They have to take tests. The tests aren't designed to fail them. They are designed to prove they are ready for the next level. In the same way, when God is about to promote you, He will allow a test to come, not to hold you back, but to prove you are prepared. Joseph had a dream that he would one day be in a position of power, but before that dream became a reality, he faced test after test. Would he stay faithful when he was betrayed and thrown into a pit? Would he keep his integrity when Potiphar's wife falsely accused him? Would he trust God when he was forgotten in prison? Every test was preparing him for the day he would stand before Pharaoh and be promoted to second in command over all of Egypt. If Joseph had given up in the test, he would have never reached his destiny. David was anointed as king, but he didn't step into that position immediately. First, he had to pass tests, facing Goliath with nothing but a slingshot, staying humble while serving under King Saul, choosing not to take matters into his own hands when Saul was trying to kill him. Each test prepared him for the throne. If he had failed the test, if he had given up, grown bitter, or taken shortcuts, he might have forfeited the promotion God had for him. Even Jesus was tested before stepping into his ministry. After being baptized, he was led into the wilderness where he fasted for 40 days and was tempted by the enemy. The enemy tried to get him to take an easier path, to prove himself in the wrong way, to question God's promises. But Jesus passed every test. He stayed faithful, stood on the Word, and when the time was right, he stepped into his full purpose. The test is never about the situation, it's about your response. Will you keep believing when things don't happen on your timeline? Will you trust God when the door seems closed? Will you stay faithful when no one is watching? The way you handle the test determines when the promotion comes. The challenges are not there to stop you, they are there to prepare you. When you prove you are ready, the doors will open, the opportunity will come, and you will step into the next level of favor and blessing.